Here's a really good test for the batteries. It might be an overload test, I don't know. We've got to do some planing, and I've got a electric planer there. It's 500 watts. The inverter's 1000 watts, so that's fine. It's not a problem for that. But it's going to make the batteries struggle. So I'm going to see how they survive. So this is the cabinet door, or one of them, knocked out some old pallets, and I just want to tidy it up a little bit. So let's see how this works. That's killed the batteries. There we go. Second-hand batteries. Now that's interesting. I don't know if you can see on this camera. Okay, it's saying 12.6 now. I guess it shut it off to protect the batteries. So it was at 13.8 when I first put them on. First turned this on, went down to about 13.7, and it's at 12.6 now. So that's interesting. It only managed to run that for, well, as you saw, a couple of minutes. But it's quite happy again now. I turned it off, turned it back on again, and yeah, you know, it's quiet and happy. But I reckon the minute I plug that in and start again, it will die.
Turned it off, turned it on again.
So I turned it off, turned it on again, 12.5 it's reading. Will this start? Yes.
Well, there you go, it didn't cut out because I used it very sensitively.
So what I'm learning with this electric planer is, and the inverter and the batteries obviously, is that they can't take a huge load. So it's fine, they're fine running it if this is running, revving fast and easy, and it doesn't get caught or pushed into the wood too hard. If I push it into the wood too hard, it'll just cut it off instantly, because obviously it really ramps up the watts that this motor is using, and the batteries can't supply enough, so the voltage in them drops massively and it cuts it out. So it seems to be about being sensitive. But if people know, if having, you know, better batteries, as in a leisure battery which is custom, or a few leisure batteries that are custom designed for this job, if they would prevent that, I'm sure they would work better. But how would they work in relation to the inverter? If people know that, and have experience of it themselves. That's what I really need. I need people that have got experience of it. Put your comments down below, let me know. Turbo Conquering Mega Eagle, if you happen to be watching this, I know you know about this stuff, so please tell me what I need to do to make my system more resilient, because ultimately Mary wants to run a hairdryer off it. So I suspect that may be a travel hairdryer, but even so, I'm not sure my system could cope with that at the moment. Cheers. Well then, we are getting somewhere. A little bit to do yet. I've got to drill the finger holes through these, and I've also got to put up the support bar for the rear door, because I've got to attach a wooden bar sort of at the back of the bed there underneath, so that doesn't flop back at the moment. It's just propped up with a stick. But yeah, that looks pretty good. Quite pleased with that. I want to wax these as well. I've got managed to find a pot of old wax where I work, so I'll use a little bit of that. Just give them a little bit of a clean up, but looking good, even if I do say so myself.
Northern Ireland this afternoon, the wind is already starting to strengthen. Some sunshine at the moment, the rain will move in, and by this evening, and persistent will linger over the night. Temperatures this afternoon.
I'm just putting in the support piece to hold the door. So this is like a top runner support, really. Again, just a bit of old fencing timber, and I'm just screwing that in so that the doors will slide nicely.
They have done, and understanding what they have done, and understanding why it is not acceptable and doesn't.
And you don't think that's happening now, or something?
Everybody is telling us that.
It's a really rainy day, just after Storm Cara, the day after that, and finished work a little bit early, so I popped down to the hut to get a bit more done. So yeah, I'm stripping out all of the walls, and you probably see the thing flashing on the wall there. Taking out the chimney pipe hut, the stove chimney out of the hut. Read this off. This old stove, I say old, it's not old. I bought it new to go in the hut probably about 4, maybe 5 years ago. And it's awful. It works really well. I mean, it works really well in here. It's great for putting tea and things on, but it's busy rusting itself to bits. So the little lifter bit in there, so you can take this out to put on a kettle or something if you want a fast boil. It's just rusted off. So I've got to bolt that bit on so I can then get my tool in and use that as the hook. But I don't know how much longer it's going to survive. I'm going to have to try and sort of clean it up and paint it and stuff. But you can see it's all salty and horrible, and it's literally just tearing itself to bits. It's just, I've heard from a friend after I bought this that he had one that did exactly the same thing. So it's not like, you know, my usage of it has been a problem or anything like that. And this, it's a dry environment in here. Not today, obviously, because the door's open, a bit of stuff blowing in. But it's a dry environment, so it shouldn't rust like this. But just beware if you're buying cheap sort of stoves, you're probably better buying a steel one, actually. rather than a cheap cast one. Quality cast iron lasts forever, but you know, this one it'll be done in a couple of years. I think it'll just be absolutely shot to bits. So it's a shame, but anyway, I've got to do what I can with that because I can't afford to replace it. I can't afford to buy a better one. I've seen a lovely one made by a company in Devon. It's called the Hobbit stove, but they start at 550 quid. It's just not sensible. It's not doable. But yeah, so I've got to make that as good as I can. But this gives me an opportunity to paint up these walls. I've got to paint that wall as well. I should have done it before I built the bed, but never mind. So all the walls need painting. We're going to be boarding out the ceiling, so I'm stripping out all the original electrics that I just left in here. I'm stripping all of those out because I'm going to use these struts, these support struts, and add some more into the end, and then we're going to do tongue and groove all the way across. So it's a nice sort of like solid sort of pine sort of roof.
I'll be 5 minutes.
I'm not waiting.
Make it 15. I've got to shower.
I'm leaving now.
Really? Are you happy with that shirt?
Seriously.
Well, it's old and tatty.
It's vintage and well worn like me.
End of another day. Bit of a funny one. Hurt my back yesterday. Just pulled a muscle in it. So it hurts like jingo right now. So I put myself on light duties. No heavy gardening work today. So I've done some painting. It looks all blotchy and horrible, but you know, there we go, a bit of free magnolia paint. And I've repainted that stove. It's still going to rust like mad, but at least it looks nice again for the time being. So I've picked up some boxes which are going to go on the back shelf. That's them there. They're made up out of old pallet wood. Ignore that inside. I'll just put it in there out of the way for the time being. It's made up out of old pallet wood, almost like old apple boxes sort of thing. I've got 5 of those, and they are going to go. Sorry, I've got 7 of those for down here. 5 are going to go along the back there, and probably a couple up on this wall. I've got to build in a kitchen unit to go up there to store pots, pans, cooking things, and then I've got to sort of do what I can with this to tidy it up. It's a bit of a pain because it's a self-contained unit. It makes it really hard to do anything much with it because it's not a top that sits on something, and these control knobs being here, I don't know if you can see those control knobs being there, I mean you can't sink this into another counter or anything to make it nicer because the control knobs are there, and obviously you've got heat coming up from the grill, so that wouldn't work terribly well. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is sort of hang it this side somehow and then build down to the floor, and if I can I'm going to pull off the fascia and then redo that. But ideally I want enough space in this kitchen area that I'm building to get in a fridge, which will probably have to go in there, I'm guessing. But it's just finding a fridge at the right time, right price. It's that sort of classic sort of thing, and I don't really know what size it's going to be until I find one. So that's a bit frustrating. If I didn't have a window there behind the cooker and everything, that would be much easier. It would give me a lot more space and make everything a lot easier, but the window's there, so you know, I've got to deal with that. But there we go, things are moving on. It's just every time you do anything, and all of you all know this, every time you do anything it creates a knock-on effect for everything else. So yeah, it's just quite confusing. Oh, I'm also going to board out the ceiling, so I've picked up the timber for that, so that's another job that needs doing, but not while my back's hurting me, that's for sure.